Welcome back to another explainer. Today we are unpacking something incredibly rich, the nuanced landscape of Alevi beliefs, their rituals, and their fascinating evolution in modern Germany. We're going to be moving from the inside out, exploring exactly how an ancient tradition is actively adapting to the 21st century. Let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle, right? How can such a massive community, we're talking 500,000 people in Germany alone, define their own faith so differently? It's a question that makes Alevism absolutely captivating to explore.
I mean, is it an Islamic sect? Is it a totally independent religion? Or maybe it's a mystical cultural philosophy? Well, what I found so fascinating in researching this is that we actually have to embrace the ambiguity. The answer depends entirely on who you ask. Rather than forcing Alevism into neat, familiar boxes, we really need to respect its complex historical ties to Anatolia, Mesopotamia, and Islamic history, all while acknowledging its distinct and highly diverse path. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll cover core identity and diversity, the CCM ritual and sound, values and authority, memory, time and hope, and finally wrap up with diaspora, schools, and the digital future. Section 1. Core identity and diversity. Embracing the ambiguity.
So, the German Islam Conference estimates there are roughly 500,000 Alevis living in Germany right now. That's huge. We aren't talking about some distant, abstract concept here. These are literally your classmates, your neighbors, and your colleagues. Now, because of a history of minority marginalization, Alevism was traditionally practiced quietly and privately. But today, in the diaspora, they represent a highly visible, organized community that is actively negotiating its place in a pluralistic society.
Moving on to Section 2. The SEM ritual and sound, community in motion.
For Alevis, the SEM is so much more than what you might think of as a typical worship service. It's a vital social space. In fact, before the prayer even begins, the community focuses on reconciliation. They ask, are the people gathered here at peace with one another? Spiritual alignment and community responsibility happen together in this space. It's just a brilliant illustration of how religion translates directly into everyday social ethics and conflict resolution.
Now, there's a really common misconception about the Sema. Outsiders look at it and often think, oh, it's a dance or a performance. But no, not at all. It is a deeply profound physical expression of religious language. The circular movements and specific postures convey spiritual devotion, universal order, and this really deep communal connection to the divine.
And all of this is accompanied by a traditional stringed instrument called the baglama, or saz. Listen, music isn't just some nice background accessory here. Because Alevism historically relied on oral transmission rather than a single central institution, the poems and songs literally carry the history, the theology, and the teachings of the faith. The instrument itself is a carrier of memory, basically turning the gathering into a resonant, communal classroom.
Which brings us to Section 3. Values and authority, the inner path.
A really crucial concept to grasp here is Gleichwertigkeit. It's a German term emphasizing that absolutely every human is fundamentally of equal worth. In Alevism, you're judged by your inner moral compass, your Menschlichkeit, or shared humanity, rather than your outward societal status, your gender, or your background. Plus, education isn't just about absorbing random information. It's deeply tied to gaining moral maturity and inner wisdom. And this heavy emphasis on ethics completely shapes how traditional authority works. Notice there isn't some massive global bureaucracy dictating terms from the top down. Instead, figures like the Dede, the Peer, or the Rebbe lead through trust, lived values, and ancestral lineages. Their authority isn't just automatically handed down by an institution. It is actively earned and maintained through their relationship with the community and their ability to actually guide people morally. All right, Section 4, memory, time, and hope, living the calendar. The rituals we see here function so powerfully across time. Take the Muharram fast, for example. It's not just a physical restriction of food, it's an active remembrance of historical injustice and suffering, specifically at Kerbala. This shared memory builds powerful solidarity in the present day. But it doesn't just stop at sorrow. Through the spiritual figure of Khizr, who represents protection and help in times of need, the tradition always pivots back to hope and mutual. Let's zoom out for our final part, Section 5, Diaspora, Schools, and the Digital Future, a Living Tradition. We are witnessing a massive, real-time shift here. We're talking about a transition from deeply private, localized, and oral traditions straight into a highly visible, institutionalized reality in the diaspora. To be officially recognized by the state and to organize in modern society, an oral tradition suddenly has to do things like write down curricula, standardize its definitions, and form official public associations. And this institutional shift is literally making its way into the classroom. German states like North Rhine-Westphalia and Baden-Württemberg have officially integrated Alevi religious instruction right into their state school systems, which is a huge milestone for community recognition. But it demands something absolutely crucial from educators: sensitive teaching. Schools have to avoid cramming Alevi students into simplistic, stereotypical Muslim boxes, while also recognizing that standardizing terms for a textbook can sometimes accidentally flatten the beautiful regional and linguistic diversity of the faith.
But hey, the state school system isn't the only new frontier, right? We really have to ask ourselves, how is the algorithm changing the way Alevi youth discover their identity? In the digital age, who actually holds the microphone?
Because while platforms like YouTube and TikTok offer incredible, democratized access to cultural heritage and connect dispersed communities all across Europe, there's a pretty big catch. An ancient religion built on complex oral poetry and intimate physical rituals risks being flattened into simplified, polarized soundbites by algorithms that, let's be honest, reward outrage over nuance. A 60-second clip of a sim gathering might show you the atmosphere, sure, but it can never truly replicate the deep, communal reconciliation that happens offline.
So ultimately, trying to perfectly categorize Alevism, it kind of misses the point entirely. As we've seen throughout this explainer, its true beauty lies in its diversity, its musical soul, and its deep, unwavering focus on our shared humanity. It is a living, breathing tradition that prioritizes the inner path over rigid outward labels. I want to leave you with this thought to mull over. In an era that is just so driven by digital polarization, by algorithms, and this constant rush to shove everyone into neat little categories, what can our broader modern society learn from a tradition that anchors itself so deeply in shared, equal human dignity? How might adopting just a bit of this inner path perspective actually change how we view our own communities? Thanks so much for learning with me today on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.